Sunday, come on, you could do better than Saturday. We won a couple of good games. We start off at the CCI once more. Kolkata Knight Riders, the team in form, they look good against the Delhi Capitals, who started well but have lost their way just a bit. 2 losses after that opening game win against the Mumbai Indians, which was in an afternoon game at the Brathwaite. That's where we are again. So let's see how these two teams go. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by IQ 9 5G. We'll hear from Carlos Brathwaite in just a moment. It is my pleasure to welcome for the first time in this new magnificent studio of ours, our good friend Sanjay Manjrekar, of course, who we've been through what, 7, 8, 9 studios together, and it's I'm delighted to welcome you back to another one.
Always great to be here because it's fun being with the people that I've worked for over the years. And when you mentioned powered by, I thought you were saying Carlos Brathwaite, power and him. I'm more the ones and twos kind of guy. But yes, great to be here and looking forward to what has essentially been one of my most favorite tournaments, the IPL.
Wonderful. Now, when Sanjay says he's the ones and twos kinds, he's being modest or he's just being honest about the playing day Sanjay Manjrekar. If you look at the modern day Sanjay Manjrekar, who had me also just check how he's going with the gym and whatnot, he looks a fit man.
I've been advised by my trainer that when you sit in the studio, make sure you're flexing this, but that's a bit too much. So
is that right? Yeah. Carlos Brathwaite doesn't need to do any of that. We'll just show you a picture of him and you'll know why. Because he's been lifting heavy weights, not only in the gym, but with that lovely baby of his. He's managed to move the Pampers around and whatnot in quick time. But Carlos, it's good to see you. How are you doing?
Got the button open, the chest on show. Loving it, guys.
Yeah, that's just Sanjay, right? Now, at some point, you're hoping we'll discuss the game. So let's go there, shall we? KKR against DC. Toss won by Shreyas Iyer. Shreyas Iyer, who was made captain of the Delhi Capitals, was then missing a season due to injury and did not regain either the captaincy or his place and retention in the team. This makes for a mouth-watering prospect. Up against him, Rishabh Pant, who needs to find a way to just pick up the Capitals after he realized that his big retention, Anrik Nokia, is still not ready, and Nokia has actually been dropped. So we'll come to that now. KKR are going to be bowling first. This looks a good team to you, Sanjay? KKR, who seem to have got things going. Umesh Yadav in great form. Russell's had that one big innings.
Yeah, things are looking good, and despite Andre Russell not coming to the party in the last 2 games, there are others who have come to the fore. So they've got plenty in reserve. So delighted by the fact that Venkaiah Iyer got a 50 in the last game. So he's got himself going. And Pat Cummins in the last match. Yeah, it was incredible what he did there. So a lot of positives about this. Sam Billings, I think, is showing some spark. Yeah. But the great strength of KKR is their bowling attack. Incredible when you look at the spinner that operate in the middle. Umesh Yadav is having the best IPL that he's done ever. Honestly, I mean, consistent getting wickets in the power play. So it's all looking very good for KKR at the moment.
How surprised are you? Pleasantly, I'm guessing, for Umesh Yadav, who was a late pickup at the auction. A lot of teams thought, we're not sure if we want him in our team or not. And he is the leading contender for the purple cap at the moment.
And rightly so for people to be skeptical about people like Umesh Yadav or Navdeep Saini. They all played together once upon a time for RCB. Mohammad Siraj was in there as well. So I can understand them being a little circumspect about, his selection. But he's been a pleasant surprise and really happy for him.
All right. On the other hand, you have the Delhi Capitals that just need to pick things up. Now, Carlos, we were discussing some curious tactical calls in that last game against Lucknow. Rovman Powell batting at 3. Anrik Nokia looked like he was clearly short of match fitness. And I'm guessing that's one reason why Delhi decided, no, we're not going to play him another game. We're bringing back Khalil Ahmed, who had a good couple of games. I wonder what you make of that. Would you have rather just gone with Nokia if fit, hoping that, he finds his mojo at some point? Or is that just those 3 overs were enough in the last game?
I wonder if it's something pre-planned. They figured it's a quick turnaround in games. We'll probably give him 1 game now, rest him in this game, and then potentially try to get him a couple games back-to-back, sometime in close proximity. But having come off a long injury, for him to play, it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and then come back and bowl with the intensity that he has to bowl at to send it down at 145 clicks may have been too much on the body. So I suspect this was something that was probably pre-planned, but it wouldn't have helped how the 3 overs went. And it obviously forces us to question if it was tactical or if it was indeed a plan.
Don't think it's a selection based on his last match's performance. I mean, it would be sacrilege for a guy like Nokia being dropped after one poor performance because he's been a revelation in this IPL. So, as Carlos says, I think this is about making sure that he's giving them the best that he can for the whole season.
Do you see him having a good season in India? Delhi didn't even play him in the India leg last year. They went for a Chris Wokes at that point. Nokia in India for the first time. Do you see him being as effective?
Yes, because there's nothing to suggest that he won't be. Hits the deck, and I think a lot of bowlers on dead pitches and subcontinental pitches are hitting the deck, and he's got the other varieties as well, plus the self-confidence of having done well in the IPL. So I don't see him condition-specific bowler. I think he'll do well in these conditions as well.
Fair enough. Now, interestingly, that's just 3 overseas then for the Capitals. This is one team that is choosing to leave some of their overseas out. Lungi Ngidi is also part of that squad. I don't think I've heard anything about him being injured. So, assuming Khalil Ahmed is being picked on form, and the Capitals are happy to have just those 3 overseas spots. Rovman Powell, though, question mark about where he should bat. We've slotted Sarfaraz at 3 and Rovman at 6. We saw what happened in the last game, Carlos. Is that something that was just a one-match experiment, or is that something that's likely to carry on now, or should that change?
I think it was an experiment. I think they had a good start and they thought, why not? Let's keep the momentum going. And I think Rodman was slated to bat 5. I think that was kind of the role. I think you're the youngster batted at 3, Rishabh 4, and him 5 for the first couple of games. So I think that was an experiment where it was more a case of Prithvi Shaw got out. Right-hander went in at 3, trying to keep the momentum and the pace of the game up. It didn't work. But I don't think he should be castigated either. He will come back, probably bat at 4 or 5. It seems as though, based on that, they probably have a right hand, left hand kind of thinking going forward. I think the batting lineup is flexible enough to have that. But we'll love to see Sarfaraz Khan at 3. Who was it? It was Ravi or Wazim Jaffa was saying that he batted really well high up the order in red ball cricket, and 50-over cricket was in good form. And he's someone that burst onto the scene a few years ago and didn't really set the world alight after. And if he's in good form at 3, you'd want him to bat the position that is best suited for him. If that's the case, I think their best lineup will be him at 3, and then either Rishabh at 4 or Rodman at 4, depending on how the right hand, left hand goes, if that's what they're planning to do.
Sanjay?
Mandeep Singh was tried and unfortunately didn't work. Mitchell Marsh, we were discussing off air. If he comes in fit and raring to go, he's your ideal number 3. Sarfaraz has done well, at number 3 in other formats, as I'm hearing. But IPL and T20 cricket here may not be the same kind of challenge. But clearly, Powell is somebody who is best used at number 4, 5, 6, as it's been done until now. Sarfaraz is a worthwhile bet to bat at number 3 and see how the youngster reacts. I'm very happy that Sarfaraz is finally getting some attention. Opportunities. I thought he got a bit of a raw deal with Punjab Kings and RCB as well, because every time he's played in an IPL game, if you look at his performances, there have been those cameos down the order. So very happy that, Delhi is now trusting Sarfaraz Khan. I think he has a lot to offer.
I guess what we were discussing in that last game was that they had a good start, and the spinners came on, almost made it a good scene for Sarfaraz to walk in. Rovman Powell seemed to struggle. Today they've got Narayan and Varun Chakravarti. The other end is the lack of power hitting towards the end. Somehow Rishabh Pant, even when set, couldn't get the big shots away. They could have done with Rovman Powell's power at the end of an innings. But that's something to figure out for today's game. We'll see what sort of batting order they go with today. But we've got plenty of talking points for you. This is an interesting contest. Shreyas Iyer versus Rishabh Pant. We had Ravi Shastri on our show earlier who said this is an audition for the next Indian captain this IPL. And as we look at how Shreyas Iyer has gone in his own batting form, that's one side of it. This is a player that had started all right, nice unbeaten 20 to see off the victory against CSK. But since 2021, the numbers against spin, Sanjay, surprisingly, have dropped for a player who otherwise came in with a reputation of really playing spin well. He's got out, I think, twice this season to leg spin already.
Still early days, so let's wait and see how the league pans out. But I remember when I watched Shreyas Iyer for the first time playing for India and saying that on multiple occasions that he looks formidable against spin and hence the ideal number four. Remember that eternal quest to get that Indian number four. And I thought Shreyas Iyer was a great fix because he was so good against spin. Batters change. Maybe Shreyas Iyer has focused a lot on playing pace because he got found out sometimes with a short ball. So maybe he's changed a little bit. But he's got this natural sort of, prowess to play spin. So that's bound to come through. I'm not really getting too excited with numbers. That suddenly has become a poor player of spin.
Yeah. Is this contest the kind that would mean more to Shreyas Iyer? I don't know what he would have felt when he was not given, or not given, but certainly not made captain again once he was fit and raring to go, and then not retained by the franchise. Are these things relevant, you think, mentally, personally?
Could be. I don't know what, was spoken to with Shreyas Iyer when, they continued with Pant. But when he got the captaincy the first time, it surprised everyone. There are a lot of IPL captains that we have. Carlos as well would be noticing that. And these are IPL captains who have never captained any, credible team before. And they make their debut as captains in IPL. So there's a lot of experimentation that goes on. And Shreyas Iyer somewhere would have believed that he was part of that experiment. But seems like he has a nice demeanor now, quietly relaxed and confident, and hence becoming, a viable captaincy candidate. And his team is doing well. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That last line, Carlos, when the team does well, suddenly we think we've got a good captain too. So I wonder what you've made of Shreyas Iyer's, short term as KKR captain so far. Among the more noticeable, calls they've played, they've gone with 5 specialist or multiple specialist bowling options. That team stays the same as the one that won that last game against MI. So Rasik Salam continues, no Shivam Mavi. But the aim there, Carlos, as you remember, was to lift a little of the bowling workload from Andre Russell. So you got 5 outright bowlers on that right-hand side. You got Venkatesh Iyer and Nitish Rana as part-timers on the left-hand side. And Russell seems to only want to bowl over number 19 and nothing more. So that's one tactical call they've made. Rahane and Venkatesh Iyer continue at the top. Sunil Narayan seems to have been left out as an opener for this year's IPL at least. How do you think KKR have been tactically so far? Certainly the results reflect it's been successful.
And I think they've been very assured. All the things you just mentioned there are things that in the past were up in the air and you were never sure which way they were going to go. Now you know Sunil Narayan is a bowling all-rounder. His main task is to bowl 4 overs, get as many wickets, or be as tight as possible. But we always know what Sunil Narayan can do with the bat. So if the opportunity presents itself, we know what he can do. But it's no longer a case of who opens. Does Sunil go as picture to with Russell? He's a batting all-rounder. We'll only need him in the death. And you can almost look at Russell completing Umesh Yadav's overs. Umesh, if he goes well, he gets 3 in the power play or by the 7th over. Does really get his wickets. It makes no sense forcing him to come back in the back end in the death where he's not as strong. If you have someone like Russell who could break the game open in the back end bowling at 1, 4, 5. But by saying that, you also don't want to force Russell to bowl 3 and 4 overs, especially in the league phase, knowing the potential that he has to get injured and then potentially not have him either as a batter, fielder, or bowler for the business end of the tournament. So whenever something works, it looks like a genius call. And so far, the fact that they're so assured, everyone seems as though they have set roles. But there's also enough flexibility with Narayan, Cummins, and Russell as real potent all-rounders, and then someone like Nitish Rana, Venkatesh Iyer, who can also claim the all-rounder tag. They have enough flexibility with bat or ball that they could play any style of cricket that they want, and so far they found a style that wins.
Sanjay?
They've got a lot of options. I was just looking at the players that they have in the squad. They've got somebody like a Mavi who's high on confidence. And, when you look at the options that they have, apart from those that they've played so far, Pat Cummins went for a few runs in the last game. It, to me, at this stage on current form, looks one of the best bowling attacks in the IPL. Currently, just bowling attack, because you've got absolutely nothing in the middle overs with Varun Chakrabarti and Sunil Narayan, brilliant. And then you have a wicket taker at the top, and I love the way they've used him, Umesh Yadav, more at the top. Pat Cummins will come into his zone, and they've got these other options as well, just in case somebody like Rasik Salam doesn't live up to expectation. And like Carlos said, wonderful use of Andre Russell,
Yeah.
being realistic, get him to big. I think he's one of the best dead bowlers when he's fit, Russell. So just bowl him once or twice, and when it comes to the business end, get more out of Russell, the bowler. I like their tactics.
It's worked. It's worked. A team that gets the results right, automatically the tactics tend to look good. But KKR have been very good, and they moved from Andre Russell bowling his full 4 overs in the first game, picking up that slight niggle while diving in the field, to then using him very, very cautiously as a bowler. It has worked for the Knight Riders. Perhaps most things are clicking for them. One thing that isn't is that opening partnership. Venkatesh Iyer's got some runs. Ajinkya Rahane, though, at grounds that are well known to him, in a new team where you think he fits well, and even Sanjay facing or chasing some small targets, has failed to really make an impact in the first 4 games. You're looking at an average of around 15, strike rate there too. Does that surprise you in any way, given you thought this is an opportunity in a 10-team IPL for Ajinkya Rahane to make some kind of T20 impression?
So he started off well, he got a 50, and that is what is reflecting there. Despite getting a 50, and we are not into too many innings in the IPL, he hasn't got much after that. But I think Kirani is a story that we are well versed with, that this is a guy who has just lost his mojo a little bit. It's not coming back, and losing his place in that Indian team as well. It's not going to help his confidence.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that he's found a team that's willing to back him. And he's played every game so far. And I was surprised when somebody showed a lot of interest in Ajinkya Rahane, because there have been a few players that teams haven't bid for purely on performance. And Ajinkya Rahane would have been one of those guys, but there was a franchise that showed keenness, and maybe they want to show that we were right to back him. But I've always been slightly pessimistic about Ajinkya Rahane's performances, because I see his state of mind, and that doesn't seem to have changed much over the years.
Can they make better use of that spot in any way? Could Nitish Rana be put at the top of the order where he has had success? He's had a quiet season, Nitish Rana, for someone who's been at the franchise and played well for them for a number of years. And I look through that squad now. I mean, there's no standout player wanting to claim that spot. They started with Sheldon Jackson. You've got Anukul Roy as an option, or any of the uncapped players. But is there a case to make better use of that, or would you give Rane a long rope?
I wouldn't give Rahane a long rope. You know my views on Ajinkya Rahane. Everyone knows it. I wouldn't have had him in my team if I was the owner, because I've seen his performance, and it's not been one bad season. He's had troubles, and I feel sorry for him. And let's hope he's able to overcome that. So for me, it's a bit unfair that Nitish Rana, after his batting performance last season, when KKR was struggling with the form of Owen Morgan and others, Rana came up, and showed the goods. He should not be down at 5 or 6. He should be more number 3 and 4. Sam Billings could be an option to open the innings, because he's somebody that you wouldn't mind pushing up the order, make his life a little easier. And apart from that, there's always the Sunil Narayan route to go, but I don't think they will. But Billings is an option. Rana as an opener, maybe not. I'd rather have him at number 3, 4, not 5 and 6, 3 and 4.
Carlos, I wonder, when you're winning, whether you actually think about this. Can you still improve these areas which aren't firing, or you could say, now we can afford to give him a long run at some point on a tricky service if we need a senior Indian batter to chase a score. We have Ajinkya Rahane. I mean, how do you look at this? Do you even give it any thought because you're winning?
Yeah, I think you do have to give it thought. There's a saying, when you win, you're not as good as you think you are. When you lose, you're not as bad as you think you are. So when you're winning, you don't think automatically you're getting everything perfect. You try to find ways to get better. There'll be tougher games, tougher situations. And I think when you look at someone like Ajinkya Rahane, the ideal situation is him being at the crease with KKR, struggling on a turning pitch where 130, 140 is actually a winning total, and him being that glue, almost like Venkatesh Iyer was last game. And I think when you look through the team, there's enough senior professionals in that middle to lower order. I think where Ajinkya Rahane can be good is as kind of a guide, a senior figure, along with Venkatesh Iyer, along with Nitish Rana, and with Shreyas Iyer as well. So when you look at that top 4, he's really your senior pro as sorts. And I think he will come good. Because they are winning, they probably won't have to pull the trigger but they'll definitely be having conversations if we do go on a run, losing 2 or 3, and he doesn't get any. What is the next best option? And you may even see a situation where even if they do continue to win, a Venkatesh Iyer might sit one game out to give a youngster uncapped player a go, see how he responds. Rahane might get rested to give an uncapped player a go, see how he goes. But all of that is planning for the future. Obviously, if Jinky Rahane comes good, Venkatesh Iyer comes good, then we won't be having this conversation. But it's hardly a season where everyone in the team performs. And that's where you see the strength of the bench. So it's going to be important. I don't think there's one standout candidate at the moment to say if Rahane doesn't do well, we'll play X. And I think even that is a reason to give him just a bit longer rope. And in that situation where the top order struggles and he doesn't fire, then I think more questions will be asked.
I just have one, comment to make about this giving somebody a long rope.
Yes.
And you'll keep giving chances until they come good. I mean, that way anyone can come good, So the owner also has to be careful that when you give somebody a long rope, when they come good, that coming good has to also last long.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at Liam Livingston, brilliant. He's had a great IPL so far, but there were 7 or 8 innings for Rajasthan Royals where he didn't play well. So it's almost like they're wiping out the deficit, by their performances. So eventually you've got to always look for players who are going to give you more and, deliver more with a shorter rope. So they'll have to watch Ajinkya Rahane. They've given him a long rope. They have actually backed him. Picked him was the first, show of confidence in him, then batting him at the top of the order. Now when he comes back after that 50, he's had a bit of a lull. That patch also has to carry on a bit longer. Can't be one innings and, prove the critics wrong and going back to low scores.
Fair point. Yes,
I
Carlos.
agree. I agree, but I think when you look at the more successful franchises, they give all their players a long road. And I think as a player, what that tells me, if I'm one on the outside looking in, that this franchise gives you an opportunity. It's a privilege to even be in the franchise. But if you see 1 or 2 low scores, you keep getting back, you keep getting back, you keep getting back. The person that's waiting to come in is working hard behind the scenes, knowing that when they get a chance, it wouldn't just be one game. The franchises that drop players after 1 or 2 games, the players that come in, yes, they have opportunity, but it's also a lot more pressure because they know 1 bad game or 2 bad games, and I could be back on the outside looking in. So I think it does a lot for the squad and the depth of the squad when the person playing may not be performing at the best of their ability, but there's a set role for them. You can see that role, and then you know that if you come in to play that role, you'll be given that long rope. When I played for SRH, I knew it was between me and Hales, and it would be just composition. I'd Hales the opener and go with 5 bowlers, or myself coming in at 6 and 7 and being a kind of hybrid between a 5th and a 6th bowler. And Hales got a good run, but I knew that when I came into the team, this was my role, this was my position, and because Hales got a good run, I was expected to get a few games to go, and we went all the way to the finals that year. And once I came into the team, I think I played either 4 or 5 games at the back end. So you have that confidence in the management, in the franchise, that you will get a good run, and I think that puts you in a better mentality as a player. So it doesn't only bode well for the person in, but it bodes well for the incumbent as well.
Yep. Fair point that. Now, when we spend this kind of time on Ajinkya Rahane, you're bound to see a score from him. You think that's just how it goes when we talk players up or down and see the opposite impact. Now, Prithvi Shaw's already walked out to the centre and he's been very good. You look at the players that have started well in the power play. Prithvi Shaw striking better than most people, and he was in a league of his own in the last game. Everyone struggled in that game between Delhi and Lucknow, but for Prithvi Shaw and Quinton de Kock. And Carlos Brathwaite was covering that game with us, did say that it was the difference on how deep de Kock batted. Otherwise, Prithvi Shaw could have given them the runs that they would have wanted. Highest strike rate in the power play this year. He's looking all right, Sanjay. Prithvi Shaw. He's a big player for Delhi, especially this season now, which Shreyas gone.
So we have these dashers, who bat in the top of the order, have a great strike rate, and they just sort of the impact that they make, and it just sort of makes you sit back and look at these guys. Wow, that's tremendous hitting. Like Butler, A.B. de Villiers in his prime. Prithvi Shaw plays those kinds of innings. I mean, he doesn't come good every match, but there's always a match after 3 innings where he bats in the way that he did in the last game. 61 of 34 deliveries. That was an incredible inning. The kind of shots that he plays as well. Yeah. But then the team ended up getting just about, I think, 149, yes, which is something that I've not understood, and it's happening a few times. So let's keep watching that, whether it's a trend in the IPL where you have somebody batting at this strike rate at the top of the order. Surya Kumar Yadav, last game, Mumbai Indians. Mumbai Indians ended up getting 160 odd, 150 or whatever. So let's watch that trend as well. But tremendous player.
Yeah, when he started well, he's already found the middle of the bat against Umesh Yadav. How many do they need though? Carlos, afternoon game at the CCI, which looks like one of the better surfaces in the IPL so far. We've seen 210 chased successfully here in an evening game. What do Delhi need against a strong Kolkata side?
I think you're starting to look 185, 190. And then if you get close with a few overs to go, anything else is a bonus. But with a team chasing 200 already, I think you have to look at least 185, 190.
Sanjay, 185, 190, 200, CCI, you know the
well. I don't know, just maybe enough that, the chasing team finds it difficult to get there.
One of your favorite questions is the prediction question, and that stands good even now. Right, you know what, this is KKR's first afternoon game. Keep an eye out on how Umesh Yadav bowls in an afternoon game with the new ball, and we will pick up that conversation too at the end of 20 overs and see how many Delhi have got. You think this is a bigger game for them than for KKR, looking at how their season's just lost a little bit of steam after that opening game win. Join us then on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 95G.